I'm back with another author chat today, and I'm really excited because I'm going to talk with an author whose work I've been reading now for several years. I went back and checked on Goodreads today. He has a perfect record with me. I've read no less than 7 of his books, and I've rated every single one 5 stars. So if you have not gotten acquainted with this gentleman's work, I want you to first listen to what we talk about today, and then I want you to run right out and get his books. I still haven't quite figured out why they aren't movies yet. I'm going to talk to him about that because they're very cinematic in their quality. They're thoroughly researched and come from a background of vast knowledge about his subject matter due to his life experiences, his professional background, as well as his education and all the things that he encountered during a very long career, which we'll touch on. But I really enjoy them. They're fast-paced, they're mysteries, great characterizations, and modern contemporary issues. The other thing that I really like about his books is that he does not shy away from addressing current controversies, current concerns, current problems that we're all experiencing here in the United States in our various communities. And one of the books series that he's writing is set in a city that I know well, Sacramento, which is just 35 miles north of where I live, in a town that I worked in for 21 years. So let's see if I can have him join us. Ah, there he is. Let me bring him on. And we...
Hi.
Hey there, Janie. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You know, I feel like I know you even though we haven't met in person. We've been corresponding for a few years and done a few Zooms together. And when I started doing these chats, I said, well, this is the first guy I have to talk to. I have to invite you immediately. I was just telling folks a little bit about your books and how I found you. A few years ago, I was approached by the folks at Partners in Crime virtual book tours, and I've been doing tours with them for quite some time. And of course, there's a lot of authors that I've discovered through them. And the thing that jumped out at me, this is what I alluded to in my post too, was I read your bio. And immediately I said, okay, I have to know more about this person and his books because we had something in common, which was our employer.
We did.
And now the funny part was when I discovered you were gone. Because I went on a global directory and I went, he's not here. And then I found out that you, of course, had retired a couple of years before I got there. But our common employer was, just full disclosure here, the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation.
Right.
But we were in totally different worlds because Jim spent his time over on the custody side of things. Yep. And I was, of course, in the legal division. But there is that commonality, and it just made me get so interested in your books because I knew the kind of wealth of knowledge that you were bringing to them. So I started out reading your Detective Nathan Parker series, and I have the most recent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Sins of the Father.
Right.
I don't have all of them in physical form. I have a lot of ebooks. And then there are 4 of these so far, which like I mentioned, they're all 5-star reads. Love them. And then the second series that I've gotten into is the Detective Emily Hunter series.
Right.
And that's the one that's set in Sacramento, the capital city. This involves a female detective. So I was a little surprised today when I went on Goodreads and I started perusing just to double check my ratings and everything. You have another series that only had 2 volumes.
Yes.
Are you going to be adding any more books to that one?
To that earlier series? No, you're talking about that was the John Penley series, also set in Sacramento. No, that series ran its course with that publisher, and then we're moving on to different things. Maybe it might come back someday, but it kind of set the stage a little bit for the Emily Hunter series, I think. There's some commonalities in personality traits there is a female detective, a woman detective in that early series with At What Cost and Bury the Past. She's a lot messier than Emily is.
Oh, Okay.
So yeah, Emily's kind of a very refined version of that Paula Newberry character.
Okay. And then you also have a standalone, Black Label, I believe it's called?
Yeah, Black Label. Uh-huh.
Okay, now that was, because I have to confess, I haven't read that one, but it's on my Kindle. Tell us what that one is about.
That one's, it's a, like you said, it's a standalone psychological thriller. It's about a woman pharmaceutical executive who wakes up in an apartment that doesn't know how she got there. It's clearly not hers. It's a man's apartment, and she finds herself, naked in his bed. How did she get there? And she can't remember the entire weekend before.
Ooh.
She soon finds out, as she's exiting the apartment quickly and quietly, that it's one of the board members, the chairman of the board, and that's his apartment, and he's been found murdered somewhere else in the city. So she finds blood on her clothes. She doesn't know how it happened, doesn't know how she got there, and the story just kind of unwinds from that.
All right, well, I have to go back and read that one.
Yeah,
that sounds great.
Yeah, there's a great audiobook version of that one done by a narrator, Sarah Sounds, and she did just an amazing job on the audiobook narration.
All right, well, I'm going to get back to those. Now let's go back for a little minute or two, and let's talk about your background.
Yeah.
You're a California guy.
I am.
And I want you to tell folks a little bit about your upbringing, and I know you're laughing. There's something about California that I didn't know until I kind of, and I sort of got, what's the word? I kind of got okie doked over to corrections, the place I said I'd never work. I said there were two places I would never work, corrections and the franchise tax board.
Yeah.
I never went there, but I took and it's a long story. We won't go into it. But anyway, I ended up having more fun than I'd ever had the rest of my career for 14 years.
Oh, yeah.
It was the best job I had. But I didn't know until I got there and until I actually got in the car. This is the other thing I didn't know. I didn't know I'd have to go to prison.
Yeah.
Sort of dumb on my part, but when they started telling me, oh, you have to go, I went, huh? Because I thought I was just going to wander around the streets of Sacramento and go to the various offices that the department has. For people who don't realize, California's correctional system is ginormous, and there's over 60,000 employees, right?
Right.
So where you grew up, I think, is something a lot of people don't realize even exists. So tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, as a crime fiction author, I think I've got a unique background in that I grew up in prison. I mean, I lived on prison grounds as a kid. My dad was a career corrections guy. So we moved all over the state where he worked, at Soledad and San Quentin, and a lot of these fire camps. One of my earliest childhood memories is going to pick him up with my mom after his first watch assignment at San Quentin. And you've got that big Gothic tower that's there and everything. And it just made an impression on me. Yeah. Dad was the death row sergeant there at that time. So he'd come off, shift and, we'd go home. But yeah, fast forward a few years, he was a camp lieutenant at what we call the conservation camps. They're the fire camps that are all in the foothills and down in the Delta, doing, brush work and community park renovation and sandbagging during flood season and fire suppression. These are the inmate hand crews that you see out. So I lived on grounds as a kid, and it was very remote down in Tulare County, up in the redwoods in Balch Park. So my playmate was an inmate gardener who would wheel me around in the wheelbarrow, and kind of take, we did that kind of thing. Had my hair cut by the inmate barber, would wander through the dorms and play pool with the inmates. Was that good parenting? Maybe not, but it was kind of just what I did. But I think, reflecting back on it, it kind of made me think of these guys that I ran across as people. They all had a backstory. They all had a story to tell and how they got there. I didn't think of them as a criminal or a convict. It was, that man that I knew. So yeah, like you, I didn't intend to go into corrections. I graduated college. I went to college and chose criminal justice because okay, there was less math involved in that major, so I took that course.
Yeah.
But then there's something about it that it seemed familiar. It seemed, relatable. And I ended up, using that as my major, and same in graduate school. That was my major.
Yep.
And one of the first jobs I found while I was doing my master's thesis was I needed a job that would let me, read on the job and catch up on my work. So I found a job in juvenile hall at the graveyard shift where I could read and write my thesis. And that kind of just snowballed into then going into probation, and finally I went to prison.
Right. Now, a lot of people, like I said, don't realize, but there are certain institutions in California, older ones, they have houses on grounds.
Right.
And employees rent them. They get reduced rent, and they live there. I never realized that till I drove through those gates that you mentioned at San Quentin, which are very imposing, right?
Right.
You see them on TV. And Folsom, I think, is probably even the most imposing.
Yes.
And I drove on, and of course I'm thinking, where did my career take this left turn? How did I get here? But over and above that, I'm like, what's with the houses? They have actual neighborhoods.
Yes. Yeah,
and kids get on the school bus, and it's normal life.
We did. Where in those remote camps where I was, it was the camp commander, the lieutenant, and the forestry, the CDF commander, the CAL FIRE commander. So those were the two on-ground residences. And if there were kids, we'd all get together and get the bus to the nearest school, which was over an hour away, and do that kind of thing. But it was kind of an odd way to grow up, because you were in this kind of artificial place up in the hills with inmates around. When I went to high school, one of my classmates, because it was like a prison community, one of my classmates' dad was in the camp. He was an inmate, so we kind of had this relationship about, okay, you don't say anything, I won't say anything, and it's kind of like we just had a little détente going there. But it was kind of an odd way to grow up.
Yeah, but certainly fuels your ability now to come up with stories.
It does. People hear my background and 29 years behind bars. And I say it that way at book signings and stuff, and you can see a woman, after the 29 years behind bars, she'll grab her purse and kind of hold it a little closer, And
Exactly.
It's just fun to watch. But even with that background, I don't write dark noir prison stories.
No.
But those character voices, those stayed with me, and that is kind of the thing that fuels, what I write. There are some incidents that happen that kind of serve as a little catalyst for stories, but not just prison stories about a riot or that kind of thing.
Right. Now, you said you did 29 years. You rose through the ranks, and you ended up as the director of one of the major divisions of the department.
Right.
Then you said, okay, I'm hanging it up, taking a pension, I'm out.
Right.
I know that works. You're sitting in your backyard one day, and you're reading for fun.
Right.
And you say to yourself, I do better than this.
Yeah, it was an awful, I remember sitting there with my morning coffee, my retirement coffee in the backyard. Life was good.
Yeah.
And that book just was awful. So I tossed it aside, and exactly like you said, it's like, I can do better than this. And then that little devil on your shoulder, is like, can you really?
Yeah.
And so it was like a challenge. So then I started learning how to do that. I found the Book Passage Mystery Writers Conference in Marin County. Book Passage is an amazing independent bookstore. And they do an annual mystery conference every year, and they bring writers in, and they teach you about the craft of creating fiction. So I learned about story structure, dialogue, pacing, the twist that you'll have in a mystery, and how to craft that and hide it, setting, all those things that as a reader you just take for granted. But there's some real story structure and art to doing that, and that's where I kind of learned to start doing that kind of writing, because it's very different than the reports that we had written when we were working.
Right. Well, I could write you a legal brief all day, but don't ask me to write fiction, because I can't.
There you go.
Now, were you a big reader as a kid?
I was. I was a big reader always. Started off with science fiction, then a little horror, and then I started getting into crime fiction. I think when I first grabbed a hold of Truman Capote's In Cold Blood.
Oh, yeah.
That one, for whatever reason, that just reached out and like, oh, there's a way to tell a story here about these kind of crimes, and that was a true crime narrative, and it was so different that it just kind of stuck with me.
Yeah. Well, that's a classic for good reason, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it didn't occur to you to start writing fiction until after retirement. Was that because
No.
you were so busy with your career and raising kids and?
Yeah, I think there was all of that. It was like I didn't believe that I had the time or really permission to do that. I mean, I didn't think that I could write it, when I was working.
Right.
But I know a lot of people who, now still work and they write, they're very productive and very successful. And it's really about making it a priority, that your writing time and everything is a priority to you. And I didn't know that I could do that until after I retired.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back now because I do want to focus on your two series.
Okay.
You just got nominated for an Anthony Award.
It did.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You've been nominated and won a number of awards, and your first book was published in what, 2016?
I think that's about right, yeah.
So you're like 10 years into this game, and you've already amassed quite a trophy shelf.
Yeah, I've been very, there's a bit of luck to it, timing, all the stars have to align.
Right.
But yeah, I've been very, very, very fortunate.
So you must have gotten an agent pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was actually at the Book Passage Mystery Writers Conference.
Okay.
There was an agent panel, and I kind of liked the way the agent was talking about the way that she, interacted with her clients and the relationships they built. So I, basically ran into her at the bookstore while the conference was going on, and she asked me for my elevator pitch, on one of the books. And, she liked what she heard and says, yeah, send the manuscript to me. So,
wow.
we went back and forth for a couple of months and we signed. And then that was that 2-book series that you were talking about that got, that got me going on that track.
Okay. So you don't have the piles and piles of rejection letters that I hear some authors talking about. You really got going right out of the gate.
I have my share. I mean, before I got my agent, I was submitting and, didn't get much traction, some interest and that kind of thing. But things just kind of fell into place, at that time. The story was right. I'd learned enough about the craft, and then, getting the book deal kind of just put everything in place. And it's been, a steady climb since then. I mean, like any career, it's ups and downs and sidewayses and, that kind of thing, because it's a weird business. Publishing is just such a weird business. And I'm learning that side of the world, after prison. This is my reentry program.
Yeah.
It's a whole different business model, and it takes some getting used to.
Yeah. But of course, you now are retired from that, so you can spend all of your time pursuing this.
Right. That's right.
Give us, because we want to sell books. That's our goal here, is we want to get people reading your books.
Yeah.
So let's start with Nathan Parker, because he was my introduction to your writing.
Okay.
What was the genesis? And it's set in Arizona.
Yes.
He's a sheriff's deputy down there, and he's working close to the border, which has a whole set of problems.
Right.
What's the genesis of that whole series?
That one's kind of interesting. The first book in that series is called Dead Drop.
Right.
And, Parker is a Maricopa County sheriff, and he's still kind of in the throes of dealing with his partner's murder. His partner was murdered by a coyote smuggling over undocumented migrants. So it naturally colors his perception of that issue. So he follows the trail for that particular, suspect that he's after, and he gets trapped south of the border. And he actually needs the undocumented population to help get him back home.
Right.
So it changes his perception a little bit of the issue, but the series really focuses on, border violence, border policy, and who's really caught in that struggle. Right. And it might not be who you think most of the time. But the genesis of it was I was doing a prison audit at R.J. Donovan. That's the prison that's right on the border. You can stand in the yard and you can see the international border. The fence is right there. So when you go for an audit at the prison, I was leading the audit team down there. The prison wants to show off. They want to have everything, ducks in a row. It's clean. It's, everything's calm and smooth. So I walk into the warden's office and it's a frantic mess. Something's going on at the prison. There's something's kicking off. So I find out that they couldn't clear their count. And
that's not good.
No, that's not good. That's the one thing you do in prison is make sure you know how many inmates you have and where they're supposed to be. And they couldn't clear the count, so they couldn't get the numbers right. So finally they went through several count cycles and they narrowed it down to the minimum support facility. So they went bed by bed in that 250 inmate dorm, picture count, identifying every inmate who's supposed to be there. And they finally figured it out. They had one more inmate than they were supposed to have.
Oh.
Yep, an undocumented migrant on the trail was so cold and so hungry that breaking into prison was his best option. So that kind of was one catalyst for it. And then another was when I was a probation officer, I was doing basically a juvenile court referee. And so I'd get minor offenses and we'd take them in, we'd adjudicate them and move on. So I had a mom and a daughter come in. They were both documented. They had their green cards. And the first thing mom did when she came in, it just handed me her green cards. She knew that because her daughter shoplifted, that I was going to deport them and they're going to be sent back. And, we didn't do that, naturally. We put the young woman on informal probation, but, that status was so fragile to her that she thought, her life has just changed and she's gone.
Right.
So I think something about those two together were kind of the catalyst for this series. And so that's kind of how it started and it's grown from there.
Well, you don't shy away from the issues. And that's one of the things I love about your books. First of all, that first book, Dead Drop, just kicks off immediately. You have this irascible, crazy, I just love this character, Billy. And I know you've got a lot of people that are like, don't you dare get rid of Billy.
Oh, yeah.
She's scavenging in the desert, finds this big drum. And, of course, what's in it but a body.
Right, of course.
And it goes from there. You deal with the cartels.
Right.
You deal with the crime. You deal with Nathan's internal struggles because he has guilt that he didn't get to his partner in time who was sort of ambushed on the road.
Right.
You get into politicians. I mean, you just go for it.
Yeah, I think, part of what we do, I think, as crime fiction authors is we kind of put a mirror up to what's going on in the world. Some people do it, a little bit more direct and preachy and, have their point. I kind of just want to show what's out there. Make up your own mind, on the issue. But I do try to bring those kind of situations in, whether it's, homeless camps in Sacramento in the Emily Hunter series or, the fallout from immigration policy in the Arizona desert.
Right. Well, and you're not preachy. That's what I like about it, is that you're highlighting an issue through your characters.
Yes.
So readers are looking for thrillers with a little more depth and a little more meat on the bone, so to speak.
Right.
I would almost, I heard a term recently, literary thriller. I would really almost put you in that category in the sense that you're looking at very difficult subject matter and your characters are really fleshed out. They're full human beings with lives, psyches. It's not just like, let's go chase some bad guys and shoot them up and be done and go home. That's not it. When you put these books down, you're still thinking about them when you walk away.
Oh, that's good to hear, because that's one of the things that, that I know that I've read a good book is when it sits with me for a while and I keep thinking about those characters and subjects. So that means a lot. Thank you.
These definitely sit with me. And in fact, to the point that I'll see something on the news and I'll go, hey, LEtoile was writing about that kind of, it
Yeah.
will jump out.
Right.
So Nathan Parker, we've got 4 books. When is number 5 coming out?
Number 5's coming out, I think, in August. It's coming out. The title is When Darkness Falls. Again, Nathan's in Arizona, and we're shifting the focus a little bit more north of the border this time. So it stays in the valley there, near Phoenix, and it deals with fentanyl trafficking and who's kind of behind that. And like you said, there's some political influence that's going on. And we talk about, ICE detention and things like that. So timing of it was interesting because that seems to be a topic now that, ICE detention and who gets caught up in that net.
Yeah. Well, you have my address.
I do.
You know where to send it.
I do.
And I need some more evidence bags.
Yeah, we can do
I
that.
love this. I don't know how many of these you stole from the department, but the books tend to arrive in evidence bags, and I'm always okay. For this one was reading without
permit, probably.
Yeah, without permit. So that was my offense this time. I'm always curious to see what my latest crime is. Okay, so now let's talk about Emily Hunter, who I adore. First of all, I love seeing a female lead character.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1.
Right.
Number 2, I love that it's in Sacramento because there are precious few books that are set in this area.
Right.
And as you said one time in one of your guest posts, Sacramento is a city, for those who aren't familiar with this area, that has every contemporary issue imaginable because of its location, because of the well, first of all, it's the state government, so you can't even throw a stone without hitting a state employee.
True.
Hello. You've got the Capitol right there, so you've got the legislature, you've got the restaurants they hang out in downtown. We used to have a governor with a smoking tent, but that's gone.
Right. I remember that. Yeah.
Right. You've got the river, couple of rivers. So you've got issues that, surround the waterways. You've got tourist destinations. You've got Old Sacramento, which is a big tourist destination, plus other areas. I mean, there's agriculture. There's just so much material there. Yeah. And in the middle of all this, you create this compelling character, Emily,
right?
Who she has her neighbor's cat who keeps showing up, which of course, anybody that's not following your social media needs to follow your plot hounds, and you're not my cat.
Not my cat, right? Yep.
But she keeps having this cat show up in her home, which isn't really hers, but she feeds it. She's got this challenging job as a police detective, maybe a romance,
maybe
with one of the guys that's on this other force. She's got a personal life beyond the romance part that's very challenging that many of us can relate to. Personally, it really struck with me because I dealt with a mother who had dementia.
Right.
And she's, of course, got the same issue. And I had a sister to help me balance it. But when you're a professional woman and you're raising children and you can't just stop and bring a parent into your house and care for them.
Right.
Decisions have to be made. And there comes a point when it's no longer safe.
Right.
For them to live by themselves. So she's dealing with all of that. And then she gets some very challenging cases, and she has some interesting bosses.
Yes, she does.
So tell us a little bit more. We're 3 books now, right?
Yeah, 3 books in that series. It started with Face of Greed.
Right.
And then River of Lies. That's the one that was it won the Lefty this year for Best Mystery in San Francisco. And now it's been nominated for an Anthony. So I'm, thrilled that it's the little book that could. Yeah. And the most recent in that series is Illusion of Truth. Yeah, that one right there.
I love the cover, by the way.
Oh, the cover is stunning. I mean, they just did the Ocean View just did a tremendous job on that cover. It's just grabs you. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Couldn't be happier with that. They came up with that cover, I think, within like a month of me submitting the manuscript, and they just got it. And it's like, how's this image? And it's like, that's the one.
Well, strolling down the bookstore aisle, who's not going to pick this one up and go, what the heck is this about?
I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us a little bit more, and when's the next book?
Yeah, Emily, like you said, she's a blast to write. She's a little sarcastic, a little, her filters are a little thin sometimes, so she lets things loose that she probably should keep inside. But I wanted to write a woman character in law enforcement because I wanted that additional burden for her to have to overcome. I mean, it's a tough road for women in any law enforcement profession.
It still is.
I mean, I worked with women, in prison and on parole, that, I mean, they had to work twice as hard to get the same recognition that their male counterparts get.
Yep.
And it's this constant, pushing back just to be noticed and recognized and, get what is their due. So I wanted Emily to have to...
Stop you for a second. I'm sorry, but I want to interrupt you because it's not just on the custody side.
Oh, no.
I even encountered that from certain male employees at corrections as a woman attorney.
I have no doubt. Yeah.
I got some of that. I won't say what areas of the department, but I mean, I would get some pushback and I'd be like, excuse me? And it was gender-based. There's no question about it.
I have no doubt. And I think a lot of it is because the organization itself, the department, is this paramilitary structure.
Yes.
And it has that male dominance feel to it that, I mean, it just permeates everything. So, yeah, it's tough. And that's why I wanted to throw Emily just smack in the middle of that to have one more thing to overcome. And she does. I mean, she's very smart. She's bright. She's great at her job. But she's got to always push back on that.
But again, you took on some very real issues. The second book, River of Lies, the one that's nominated, you dealt with the homeless, or the unhoused, I guess is the correct term now.
Yeah, that's the politically correct term. But yeah, it's the homeless population. I mean, Sacramento has an issue with that, no doubt. They can try to hide it or move it, but there are thousands of people that have no place to live.
Right.
Is one of the kind of kernels for that was when I was the director of parole, we went down to LA and my Region 3 folks, and we were walking through Skid Row, the largest homeless camp in the nation. And we had agents who had to supervise, parolees that lived in that mass. So it was a whole other set of challenges to overcome. But you start to realize that there's a structure, there's a governance process that goes on in these camps. And they really are organized. They don't look it from the outside, but there's a structure and there's a hierarchy and people know what's going on. But again, kind of like back to my childhood, there are stories there. Every one of those people that got there, that's a story. And Emily kind of runs, into that when she's doing the investigation. For folks that don't know about River of Lies, it's basically Emily is chasing an arsonist who's burning down the city's homeless camps, and those fires turn deadly. So she's chasing a killer, and she finds out that even the homeless have something that somebody wants.
Right.
So she's out to find that person.
And your pacing in your books is amazing. They never slow down.
Just enough to catch a breath here and there. Yeah.
Don't start them at night. I'm always telling people, don't start reading at 11 o'clock at night if you have to get up and go to work, because forget it. Because it's like, oh, just one more chapter, just one more.
Yeah, go ahead and read it at night. Just call in sick. It's okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And then in the next one, you take on another interesting issue, because it starts out, it literally goes boom.
Right.
Church bombing.
Right.
Cars flying up in the air. I mean, these are, like I said at the beginning, your books are very cinematic. Injuries, someone she cares about. Now his life is in the balance.
Right.
And she's off to the races again. What's the next book, and when's it coming out?
Yeah, the next book, it's in process now. I don't have a firm date for it yet. We're working with the publisher on that, but it's I don't want to give too much away about that one yet, but it's coming. It's in the works.
Okay.
But yeah, Illusion of Truth, like you said, we kind of dive into these issues. The distrust of police in the community, the defunding issues, all of those things that are out there in public, and we bring into the story. And it kind of, impacts how Emily can go about an investigation with that kind of, response, right in her face every time she turns around.
Exactly. And that's another thing that, law enforcement agencies are not immune from the politics.
No, not at all.
And certainly state government, because so many people are appointed by who? The governor.
There you go.
Just like with federal government, where you have appointees heading up agencies, and that can lead to all sorts of interesting conundrums.
Right. Yeah, it can. And we talk about the political side of it a little bit because, in Illusion of Truth, there's the background, and River of Lies too. There's some political collusion, that goes on in the back rooms that, affects how people do their jobs, especially, on the street.
Right. All right. So tell me about your writing process.
Yeah.
If I don't ask a couple of these questions, I'm going to get messages going, why didn't you ask them? Cancer, plotter.
Plotter, definitely plotter. I need to know where I'm going. I need that roadmap. I need to know where the story's going to go. And it's even before I do that, I'm a character first kind of person. So I'll sit down and just, get to know this character and what they're about, what their story is. Like for Black Label, just so I could write that story, I wrote a short story in first person point of view of a woman in a boardroom meeting. And that gave me the ability to kind of hear her voice, and how she would speak, how she would interact with her male board members. And it kind of informed that character to me on, okay, this is what she's about. This is her fear. These are her fears. This is, who she is. So by the time I sat down ready to write, I knew her. So I could, get that together. So I'll do that. Did that with Billy Carson in the other series. Interesting thing on Billy, she's a character. The first draft of that, she was not a woman.
Really?
Yeah, I wrote it as a male character, and going through the revisions and something struck on me. It's like, well, wouldn't this be a nice twist to make her something unexpected, and change that character a little bit. And I think it just gave it so much more dynamic relationship between her and Parker, and what she brings to the story.
Oh God, I love her. I just love her. She's so entertaining. And what I have to tell you too is that with every book we learn more about her.
Yes.
And there have been a couple of jaw-dropping revelations where I've gone, whoa, really?
Yep.
I mean, you just have to keep reading to figure out where this is going with her. I'm fascinated to see what you've got coming up next, because
and you'll learn a little bit more.
You can just mine her. You can forget Nathan and give her own series.
Her own series. Yeah, and we do learn a little bit more about her and what she's going through in the new one that's coming out when Darkness Falls. Yeah.
She's also hilarious.
She is. Yeah, she's irascible. She's, she just everything. She tries to be tough, but her emotions are right there on the surface. And she's really kind of a sweetheart at heart.
Well, and you do break up the tension with Emily's because of her partner Javier.
Yeah.
And that's I just laugh out loud all by myself in my house alone. But if you've ever been around people who are partners,
oh God,
they get this relationship going, and it's it almost reminded me of me and my father, because we had this sort of joking, insulting banter. We weren't. He was a guy from the Depression, hardworking, Right. You knew he loved you, but he wasn't the kind of guy that was like, I love you every day. Instead, it was sort of this banter that we had that for me, it was the love,
Yeah.
It was more like I'd walk in the door and go, what are you doing today, you old coot,
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what Emily and Javier Medina share, is that it's almost like that brother and sister sniping at each other, that kind of banter. And it is fun. And like you said, if you've been around partners, in law enforcement or those kinds of situations, you do develop a very special bond. And you do that kind of thing, back and forth. Or like, Javier, you find out, I think in the first book, in Face of Greed, that he had a girlfriend who was a reporter that got him on, the Sacramento's most eligible bachelor list, that kind of thing. So naturally, Emily can't let that go, so she's constantly harping on that, especially when he broke up with a girlfriend and she took his name off the list, and all that kind of stuff. And Javier's mom, God bless her, she wants him to get married so she can have grandchildren, and so Emily is constantly, in his business about that. But he's also her moral compass. I mean, she's willing to kind of just shoot forward and ask questions later, and he kind of grounds her a little bit. So it's a good relationship. I really enjoy writing those two.
He's pulled her back from the ledge more than once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you know the story.
Yes.
You know your characters. You know the ending when you start the beginning.
I do. I know the ending, and I'm always kind of going to that. I might take a side trip, but I'm constantly going to that point. I might, change it just a little bit, as we did with River of Lies. There's kind of a thing that happens in the story that kind of changes how you look at it, but without giving too much away. But yeah, I know where the story's going.
And what's your writing habit? Do you have a certain time of day, a certain place, a certain pen, a certain laptop? I mean, are you a ritualistic kind of a writer?
A little bit. I know I start early, and part of that is the plot hounds problem. They wake me up, between 4:30 and 5. They want to get fed and go out and do their business, and then they fall asleep. Well, now I'm awake, so I use that time. And yeah, I'm a morning writer, so I'll plot behind the keyboard and just go there. I can write just about anywhere. I'll write in my office upstairs. I'll write here in the library. I'll take it outside, and in the good weather, and just sit there at the fire pit and plunk away. But yeah, I can write just about anywhere. But yeah, the mornings are my productive time, and then the afternoons are more the business, marketing, and social media side of the business.
Okay, and let's talk about that. You're very active. You also got an award for being the Volunteer of the Year, I think it was.
Yeah, this last weekend from International. Yeah, with Thriller Fest at International Thriller Writers.
You're very active in some of these organizations.
Mm-hmm.
You do a lot of exactly what we're doing, where you're the questioner, the interrogator.
The interrogator, yeah.
The interrogating. You've been doing Authors on the Air.
Yeah, I've done a lot of those things. I've had to take a kind of a pause on the podcasting thing just because the workload was just getting so much. Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned, I volunteer. I'm the director at Query Fest for International Thriller Writers at Thriller Fest, and that's what we were doing last week in New York. And yeah, we saw 250 authors, and we pair them with agents and editors to go over their first 5 pages and their query letter, and they get feedback on how to make that query letter work, how to make it sing, where's the hook, are you getting the message out that you want that agent to see? So they have just a little bit better chance of getting a request for a manuscript rather than just getting a pass.
Wow, that's really valuable.
Yeah, it's a great program. It's one of the things that ITW does at Thriller Fest that's just fantastic. They also do a debut author program, so the authors that have their new books published, they all get together, on stage, get to introduce themselves for a minute, talk about themselves, and the community just kind of welcomes them. So you've got a ballroom of like 500 people, listening to these authors, talk. We took them out for a dinner, just a couple of us, Robert Dugoni and myself and Carter Wilson and Elena Taylor, and just kind of chatted, just talked with them. And, they, you can kind of feel their nerves and their, because they've never done this before. This is their debut year. So it's really kind of fun to see. So yeah, we do that. I'm also the executive vice president of Mystery Writers of America. So, that takes quite a bit of time. And we're doing some MWA University webinars to kind of keep writers involved and help them, continue to improve their craft or level up if they're looking to get to a bigger publisher. So, yeah, we're involved in a lot of stuff, and so that's kind of where my passion is trying to help other writers.
Right. Now, the writers community is known to be very supportive and very welcoming. So I'm guessing that you found that when you started writing, these folks brought you in and nurtured you.
Yeah, and coming from where we did, that was the last thing I expected. I thought that book publishing and writing was going to be this dog-eat-dog world where everybody's competing for shelf space, to get their title up there. And it's really not. And that was probably the biggest surprise. It was everybody. Everybody is so welcoming, supportive. I mean, last weekend, when I retired, you would never have guessed that I was in a room and just talked with Michael Conley and Lee Child. I mean, and they're both the nicest, kindest people you could ever hope to meet. And one of the first sessions I went to at Book Passage, Michael Conley was there, and he was talking about, he's like, a dozen books into his Bosch series at that point, and he was talking about every single time he wonders if he can do it. It's like this. He called it imposter syndrome. I didn't know there was a name to it, but I was feeling that, writing my first or second book. And it's like, okay, well, if Michael Conley's feeling that, maybe that's okay. So it's something that you learn from these people that have gone before you, and everybody is just so open to helping and working with you. It's wonderful.
That's great. I just heard a story earlier today about Sandra Brown, who was at Thriller Fest apparently, and she had told someone there that every time she starts to write a new book, and she has like something 120 books or so, right?
She's crazy. Yeah,
crazy. She's like at the top of best-selling authors. She has to go walk over to her bookshelf and go, "You know how to do this. You can do it." Before she sits down to write, and I'm like, I can't even imagine.
Every book, I think, I experience that. It's like, okay, the first, I've got my outline. I know there's a story here. Yeah. But after you get to like that 30,000, 40,000 word mark in that middle of the book, it's like, you forgot how to do this. This is going to be the book that everybody realizes you're a total fraud. You shouldn't be doing this. And you get that self-doubt that creeps in. And exactly that. You've done this before, so you have to trust the process. This is just part of the process. Get the story out, and then you can fix it on revision, and revise the heck out of it. But yeah, you do experience that, and if you're not prepared for it, a lot of people just give up.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, where you just think it's too hard.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Wow, that's really good advice for new writers.
Yeah, it is.
And it's great that you're out helping those folks and, encouraging and leading the way.
Trying to.
Yeah. So balancing all of this must be quite fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, there are times where it feels overwhelming. I mean, the last couple of weeks with, the Edgar Awards, and then the following week with Thriller Fest, there was a lot of prep work to go and get ready for both of those and pull it off. Right. But in the end result, it's like, okay, that was, a hard week at Thriller Fest, but it was worth every minute of it. That we made all kinds of people feel more confident and, more, into their craft, so they can, give us the next, big bestseller.
Where is Hollywood? Are they calling?
We've had a couple of nibbles. But yeah, we're pursuing the film and TV rights on the series.
You should, because both of these would make an excellent series.
Yeah, thank you.
I really would love to see Emily Hunter come alive. Do you have any ideal casting ideas in your head?
I not anybody specifically, but I kind of think Emily would be somewhat like Angie Harmon when she was doing Rizzoli and Isles, except not quite as tomboyish, but in that vein. Yep. And then I want the actor that does Will Trent to be Javier Medina. I think he'd be awesome.
He would. I always see Emily as kind of a Sandra Bullock in her younger days.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good fit too.
I've had somebody kind of along those lines.
Uh-huh.
Who do you see being Nathan? Do you have anybody in mind?
I did at one point. Who'd be good at that? But I'm gonna have to think about that, because I know somebody asked that question a couple of years ago, and we came up with somebody, and it was. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. Okay. Yeah.
Well, of course, Hollywood would have their own ideas about all.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You know.
I'll let the experts do that.
I was watching an interview with John Grisham. This is years ago, and he said when he first started selling his stuff, the best advice he got was from Stephen King. He said, "Sell it, don't look back."
Yep.
Because they're going to mess with it. Let them do what they're going to do. Just take the money, cash the check.
Yep, exactly that. There were a couple of conversations about that at Thriller Fest over the weekend, and it was like, Karen Slaughter talking about how they've adapted Will Trent, and then May Cobb was talking about the Hunting Wives, and it was really interesting about, once you sell the option, you're kind of out of it, and they own it, and they can kind of do what they want to do. But
right.
Yeah.
Well, for some of us, I know some people are okay when everything gets changed around like that. I'm not one of them. I don't. Yeah. Sometimes I don't want to see the book changed to the extent that they're changed sometimes. I understand those reasons. Cinema is a different. It's a whole different beast. But sometimes it's just too much for me, and I turn it off.
Yeah, I've had those moments too when it just you had such a good experience with the book, and then you see it, and it's like, this isn't really the same.
Well, as readers, we kind of feel like they're ours.
Yeah, and you kind of create that world in your head when you're reading this,
Yes,
and then you see something completely different. And it's different. It is.
Mm-hmm. So before I let you go, tell me, when people come up to talk to you and they hear about your background, number one, what is the question you most often get?
Let's see, most often is probably, did you know anybody famous, in prison, or that kind of thing? And then probably like, how come contraband is so easy to get in prison? Shouldn't you just stop that?
Interesting. Yeah. What's the dumbest question you've ever gotten?
I don't know if there's any dumb questions, but I think people aren't familiar enough with the system, so they'll think
naive question, maybe. That's nice.
I think that's probably true. It's like in California, the questions that I get are, why are we letting people out of prison when they haven't finished their sentence? There's the big compassionate release and the now elder parole, but personally, I think it's a little bit too lenient. Just because you're 50, I take exception to being 50 as elderly to begin with. That's a wrong label.
Yeah.
But if you're 50 years old and you've served some of your term, they're letting people who had, 20, 50, 100 years left on their sentence, and they're letting them out. That's the law. I remember going to the governor's office and had to explain to one of the governor's staff people, the deputy chief of staff, that they're out on parole because they served their time. I can't keep them in there. We had to let them out.
Right.
So they're under the impression that if you're out, you're in prison, you stay there until we decide you're free to go. We have laws that it's a determinate sentence. You serve your term and you're out the door.
Right.
So things like that, I think, are uninformed, but I understand why they might have to have the question.
Right. The one that I used to get, well, first after the one that I got the most was, why did you go to prison? Because you're a lawyer. You can't understand why lawyers have to be in it. Was, have you ever met Charlie Manson? And I was like, no. I think they think that you just wander in and go, let me see the celebrity inmate,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're nowhere near where we are.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great talking with you. I'm really anxious to read more of your books.
Good. I'm anxious for you to have them.
And continuing with the 2 series now, do you have anything else that you're thinking about writing? Standalones, another series, anything else that's boiling?
Yeah. I have another potential series that my agent's going to start shopping around. It's for a man who comes out of prison for a crime he claims he didn't commit. And he goes back to a town that's fictionalized, but it's like Bodega Bay. The town is very close, very small. They don't want him back home. And he goes there with the intent of clearing his name, but things happen and he finds that other things kind of get in the way of that.
That sounds juicy.
Thanks.
Sounds like lots of potential.
Hopefully.
Oh, yeah. I'd be anxious to read that one, too.
Okay.
All right, you're keeping me up at night, but that's okay. I don't need to go to work, so I can sleep later.
There you go.
I can sleep when I'm dead, right? Well, thank you, Jim. I really appreciate you joining me. I hope that we've convinced some folks to run out and get your books.
Yep.
Again, this is the latest in the Emily Hunter series, but start at the beginning. I don't like to jump into series in the middle, so I always encourage people to start at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And this is number 4, Nathan Parker, but start with Dead Drop.
Yep.
And start with Face of Greed, and then work your way up to these, because they are really excellent. I'm so happy that you had that thought in the backyard.
Me too. Oh, and I did find that author, that the book that I tossed aside and at a VoucherCon a couple of years back, and thank them for the inspiration for me becoming a writer.
Oh, that's what I forgot to ask you. People always want to hear what authors are reading. So do you have 2 or 3 books that you've read recently that you can recommend?
Oh, God, yes. Let's see. Gone in the Night by Joanna Scheffelhausen. It's a PI, a female PI series.
Yes.
And, matter of fact, Joanna just won the Sue Grafton Award at the Edgar Awards.
Yes,
great series. She's a wonderful author. Let's see. Then Kevin Wade had a book called Johnny Careless. It's his debut fiction, but Kevin was the executive producer and showrunner for Blue Bloods for 14 years on television. So he's brought that kind of cinematic kind of thing and all that cop drama knowledge, and dropped it into a debut fiction, and he really did a wonderful job with it. So, those are 2 just off the top.
I don't believe that Joanna gets enough attention.
No, she does. And
a lot of people don't know her work, but that series is really good.
It's really good. I think she goes under the radar quite a bit, and I hope people kind of take notice that, with this Sue Grafton Award that she just got, and start picking up the book, because, she's got the talent. She's really, really good.
Her books are excellent. I would agree with now that one I haven't read, but I've read a couple of them, and I would agree with recommending her work. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to let you get back to work. I know you have other things going on today, but I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
And hopefully we can chat again when the new book comes out.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks, Janie.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye now.